Okay, welcome back to another Between the Pages book chat. And today our guest is sci-fi author Jason DeGray, and he's here to talk about his book Eve. So I'm going to turn it over to him now and let him introduce himself. So take it away.
All right, my name is Jason DeGray, and I am an author. And my latest book is Eve, and this is a book that I started out as a cyberpunk project because cyberpunk is one of my favorite genres of all time. It's always been uh, close to my heart, and so I thought, hey, I want to write a cyberpunk novel. So I started Eve. Well, over the course of the novel, it morphed into something that I could only describe as weird fiction. It really deviates from a lot of like what you think of as like cyberpunk tropes and things like that into a wide range of speculative fiction type things. So, but I still like to call it a cyberpunk novel. One of my readers actually came up with a really good description genre that I've never heard before. She was calling it post-apocalyptic noir. And so I kind of liked that. So sometimes I use that too. But yeah, that's the brief summary of Eve and what the project was about.
Yeah, I read the blurb online, and it did give me a bit of a Blade Runner Altered Carbon vibe when I was reading it. So I can see the cyberpunk still there a little bit anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's a genre that I've loved, but I did start exploring other things, themes and stuff like that. The effects of technology versus nature, and you know. Uh, 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 Technological advancement on the human psyche, and things like this that I really started digging into, and how it affects relationships and families and things like that. And so that all started making its way into the novel, which, like I said, is not strictly cyberpunk. You could say. And I got into some Templar mythology and stuff like that in there as well. So it's yeah, not strictly cyberpunk, although that is, like I said, that is what I did set out to do.
Mm,
So
cool.
yeah.
So give us a quick summary of the plot.
Well, okay. It's follows this guy named Jacob Riley, and he's this IT consultant, is an integration technologies consultant. And what he does is he goes around and hunts people that have had cybernetic enhancements that have glitched out and made them go crazy. And so he goes and rounds these people up. And he's dealing with a lot of stuff in his life, as far as family issues and things like that. And he gets offered the opportunity to work for a corporation, and he wants nothing to do with it. But circumstances uh, arise, and he finds himself working for these people that he hates. And along the course of that, he runs into Eve, who was this genetically enhanced, modified human machine hybrid person with amnesia that escaped from one of these corporate labs. And so they are going on adventures trying to stop the corporations from the complete and utter destruction and takeover of the world.
Well, that is very cyberpunk, and it's also got some, I think, some dystopian sci-fi elements in it too. Would that be fair to say?
Oh yes, definitely. But that kind of goes hand in hand with cyberpunk, I believe. There's
Well, yeah, I guess so. There's always a dystopian element to it, I suppose.
yeah, especially when it comes to like corporations and their rapid increase in like power and gaining power and resources and things like that, to where they start overshadowing governmental bodies and stuff, and they become the ruling bodies and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of that in the novel for sure. Yes. But
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the main characters. What are they like?
well, like I said, Jacob is the IT consultant. He's hunting these people that have glitched out and gotten the techno crazies, and he like is a former family man. He's dealing with a lot of issues with the death of his son and his wife leaving shortly after that to basically plug into a virtual world to escape all the gravity of the situation. And so he's dealing with all of that as he's navigating his way through this dystopian world. And then we have Eve, who is, like I said, she has amnesia. And so, it's, I really took, Eve as this character that is in the process of rediscovering herself. And, so she comes out with complete amnesia, doesn't know anything, so she's basically relearning how to live in the world. And, the struggles and things like that, the observations that she's making of the people in the world around her that are helping her get an identity back, not necessarily the identity that she lost, but she's exploring and developing a new identity. It's kind of like a fresh start for her, I guess, in that way. And so there is a definite level of self-exploration as far as Eve is concerned. And then the other main character is Nate, and Nate is a young boy about 10 years old who is a savant as far as all the technological stuff goes, right? He can navigate the virtual reality of the internet and all this kind of stuff pretty innately. He has this natural knack for it. And he is trying to find his way in all of that and what that means as far as his world, because early on in the novel he has some pretty upsetting experiences happen to him that throw his world into chaos, and so he's trying to figure that out. He ends up running into Jacob and Eve, and they go on an adventure together as that. So these are three very real characters, because that's something that I believe is really important about writing characters is to make sure that they are real people and build them up from that. And and real people all have struggles, real people all have issues, real people all have things that they're trying to work through. And so, it was a very important aspect of my character development.
Yeah, it is. And one of our viewers said that your book sounds interesting. So,
oh, thank you, Richard.
And it does. It's interesting that you're exploring the new identity aspect with Eve. I found that to be an intriguing point of character. Because most amnesia stories, they're trying to find their past, and she's, I guess, so you would be to a new future would be a good way to put it.
Right. Exactly. But she starts out doing that. She starts out trying to find her own past and thinking, oh, well, if I, do this thing for the corporation, maybe they'll give me my memories back and, and things like that. But as she's going out and having these experiences, and like I said, seeing the world really for the first time again, she starts becoming uniquely herself, and who she was prior becomes less and less important to her throughout the novel, and to the point where she even has to make that choice. Do you want to stay Eve, or do you want to remember who you were? And that's it's a kind of a big conflict for her whenever that happens. But yeah, it's something that I found fascinating too. I was trying to think of a how that would actually be. I mean, if somebody did have amnesia like that and they went out into the world, what would it be like if they started gaining new experiences, meeting people and developing a distinct and unique personality outside of whoever it is that they thought they were, right? And so this is something that I had a lot of fun with, honestly, exploring this. And Jacob is also discovering himself, but he's doing it from a different perspective. He doesn't have amnesia per se, but he also lacks self-awareness, right? And so, his progression and his conflict is gaining that self-awareness. And what does that really mean to, to get to that point, to come to that culmination where you're facing yourself? And that big final struggle with that internal struggle that you have whenever you're facing all of the stuff that you didn't want to face about yourself, right? And the dragons inside of us all, I guess. And so, it's a related process, but different. Kind of coming at the same idea from two different angles with it that I was really trying to do.
Okay, so what was the hardest scene or type of scene for you to write in the book?
That was Nate's first trip into the cyber world that I wrote about in the book. And it was that was the hardest. It took me weeks to get through that. There was a lot of hard writing through that, and just trying to put myself in. Okay, how do I write and think and write this character, like a 10-year-old kid, because that's what he is, right? And he's going to react to things differently than an adult would, or he's going to see the world differently than these other characters would, and that's all had to be worked in, and I had to go back and change that and revise that quite a bit, because I would, write something down, and I would read it, and I was like, oh no, Jason, you're writing from 40-year-old Jason perspective on this. Like, you've really got to scale that down and try to see that world through a simpler, even in a way, I think more innocent filter, and just because he had to. Even though his life is full of struggle and all this type of stuff, I mean, he still hadn't lived long enough to where those experiences and stuff had really worn him down and jaded him and things like that, right? So, so trying to keep that perspective in the front of my mind while I was writing this character, and his basically his introduction to the novel was the most challenging thing that I had to do.
Okay, so what was your favorite scene or type of scene you wrote in the book?
Oh, the final battle. I loved it. Oh yeah, that was because.
Could you repeat that? Your mic went out. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, the final battle was my favorite scene, just because I was seeing it so vividly and so real in my head that I couldn't get it down fast enough to keep up with what was playing out in my imagination, and I was super excited about this, because it was and a little emotional for me as well, because it was something else, but that I would have to say was my favorite, just because I got to finally lay out all of the weirdness that I had been alluding to, and and all that kind of stuff throughout the book. I finally got to lay that out and be like, well, here it is. It's here for you. Here's the weird fiction part of it. What do you think? And that was definitely my favorite part.
Okay, that sounds interesting and intriguing. So, what are your characters afraid of?
Oh, well, Jacob Riley is afraid of living, and he's afraid of moving on, and he's living in this past, and there's this unpleasant past so much that he can't see outside of it. That's become his identity and who he is. So he doesn't want to break outside of that. Eve is more afraid of at first of not remembering who she was, of not ever, having the answers to the questions that she has. Nate is afraid of not having a family and not having a home, especially when all the upheaval and things like that starts. And he just finds himself cut loose, and everything that was familiar to him is gone. And so he's trying to cling on to any little bit of normalcy or comfort that he could find, in that.
Okay, so do you have a favorite character? And no is an acceptable answer. So,
Well, I mean, I named the book Eve. So she's definitely probably my most favorite character. In that, and I had the most fun writing her and exploring what she was going through and getting to know that. Because it's not something that an angle or an approach that I've necessarily taken before in the other stuff that I've written. So definitely loved that more. Definitely loved that more. I loved Jacob because it was kind of like writing myself. As far as you get so ingrained in your ways, and you get so ingrained in this is who I am type of thing that you lose the ability at some point really to see outside of that, and to have that shock and to have that to have your world challenged like that, to where you have to start seeing yourself outside of yourself, was therapeutic for me in a way. So, but yeah, hands down, I would have to say I had the most fun with Eve.
okay, so obviously you write sci-fi, but are there any other genres you've written in or would like to write in?
Yeah, well, the first two novels that I had written that are about to be republished was called the Ruined Man novels, and these were more of a paranormal detective fiction. As far as that goes, and magic realism and things like that. So those were the previous. And then I had written the very first book I ever wrote way back. Was a fantasy adventure, heavy on the satire and that sort of stuff, called The Saga of Seamus. And so and I've written short stories and novellas in a few different genres. So yeah, I don't want to just say I'm a sci-fi author, because I like to around, and if I come up with a cool idea or a cool story in my head, it's that's not in this particular genre that I wrote in. I want to be free to explore that, and I don't want to think, oh well, gosh, all I do is write sci-fi, so I can't do that. How can I turn this into a sci-fi novel or something like that? I don't want to do that with my process. I like to explore and check out different genres and things like that, and see what's cool about them.
Okay, so on that note, I think we'll wrap it up, and you can tell everyone where they can find you and your books.
Oh, great. Well, you can buy my books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all those places. My website is jasondegray.com. And I'm on Facebook at Jason DeGray, and Twitter, though I don't do the Twittering much. So yeah, Facebook and jasondegray.com is where you can find me.
Okay, great. So thank you for being here. It was a pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you for having me.
And be sure to join us next weekend for 2 more authors on Between the Pages Book Chat. And that's all for now. So we'll see you later. Bye.